You know, I never got to review Kung Fu Panda 4. Was going through some heavy emotional stuff, but aren't we all? To put it short, I didn't super enjoy it. You know, I thought everyone was pretty well voiced, including Awkwafina and Viola Davis. Tai Lung was basically a glorified cameo, and the best part of the movie was the Ping and Lee shipping fuel. Hit me baby one more time is a pretty okay rendition of a classic. Anyway, in doing research for this video, I found this NBC News article about the masculinity crisis in China. It's a few years old at this point, but it is still absolutely relevant to what we're discussing today. This article tells the story of a young boy in China who was ridiculed for acting more feminine. He was bullied. It's a sad but often seen occurrence in today's youth, where the idea of masculinity itself is being questioned. For the first time ever, this wonderful individual even stated that boys would soon become delicate, timid, and effeminate unless action was taken. Somebody get this boy some sparkling water, stat.
But I don't like sparkling. You don't like sparkling water? You don't like water? Yeah, but the bubbles. The bubbles? You scared of bubbles, you little bitch? Pussy ass dudes.
While the article does make it clear that not everyone in China agrees with this sentiment, I sure as hell am vehemently against it. This crisis of masculinity is a real thing, but I think, in my opinion, they're looking at it the wrong way. Gender equality is here to stay, and a lot of masculine behavior is built on power dynamics and emotional suppression. We can't just go back to when things were quote-unquote better, because again, gender equality is here to stay, and I think it's ultimately a good thing. In order to solve this masculinity apocalypse, it's imperative that we figure out what to keep and what to throw away, because if we don't, shit's gonna get messy. Tai Lung was taken in by Shifu. Shifu was a single father, and he's been shown to be emotionally distant. Not completely, he was still super attached to Tai Lung, but in a way where he offloaded all of his unmet goals onto the poor guy, similar to how fathers often offload their goals onto their sons. This isn't an inherently bad thing, I think. It's not a bad thing to instill some young men with goals, you know? But it's equally important to allow these men to find their own interests, and at the very least, provide them different routes they can try. Knowing Shifu, I find it hard to believe Tai Lung was really ever given a choice, or the opportunity to explore other avenues that weren't Kung Fu. Why was Tai Lung raised to be so self-dependent in the first place? Because Shifu himself likely was as well. Now we don't know this for sure, but based on context clues from the movie on how Shifu acts, we can pretty much assume that this is the case. A real hard-ass like Shifu was likely raised by his own father to be self-reliant, and that's how he was able to excel. But this inevitably led to emotional distancing from others, which he passed on to Tai Lung. He was obsessed with control because that's probably how he was raised too. Despite Oogway's best efforts, Shifu wouldn't let go of the illusion of control.
My old friend, the panda will never fulfill his destiny, nor you yours, until you let go of the illusion of control.
Illusion?
You can see how this approach to parenting is passed down through the generations. It's the mentality of, this worked for me, so it's good enough for them. But this doesn't take into account the changing world and changing roles. Shifu took his skills and turned Tai Lung into a machine. A damn sexy machine. This machine had the singular lifelong goal of becoming the Dragon Warrior. When this goal could never be met, Tai Lung completely broke down and went on a killing spree. I don't think this is revealing some kind of, anger issues deep inside of him. After all, he seems pretty controlled and suave after he escapes.
Where's the Dragon Warrior?
Everything he does is intelligent and calculated, not the primal rage of a beast. All this is his upbringing conflicting with his new path. Hear me out. Imagine Tai Lung is a young man, raised from birth to be self-reliant. He's taught that he needs to be the provider, the wall that no emotions can pierce. Relatively speaking, he's very equipped to deal with the world. But once he's grown up, the world quickly changes its mind about what men should be. And I mean quickly, like in the span of a few years. Now, in order to function in the real world, this young man is expected to be a co-provider, possibly not a provider at all. He's expected to be emotionally open and constantly self-aware of the power dynamics in any conversation. This change is ultimately good for society. It's a more effective and productive role for men to play. Long term, this idea really works out for everyone. But while this young man likely even agrees with that sentiment, you gotta understand he can't just switch. He was raised to be in this position, providing, distant, lone wolf mode. But after all that training, or raising, towards a singular goal, imagine how much it hurts to be told that you can't be that anymore, and you aren't fit for this. All those years of training to be this way with no other option, and now they say you can't be that way, it's not allowed. And that is the problem young men face here. Men aren't inherently misogynistic or power-driven, it's taught to them implicitly. Why do you think so many men turn to characters like Tate or Aiden Ross, who tell them they can offer a way for them to fulfill their original purpose, which is mistaken to be misogyny and power? Instead of actually relearning how to be a man, it's much easier to say, no, everyone else is just delusional. And what happens when a man can't reconcile between his upbringing and his new societal role? Chaos. Po is a fold to Tai Lung. While Leopard Boy was raised to be a fighter, Po was raised in a more mundane environment. But we've established that the original villain here is the teacher. So what makes Ping different from Shifu? If you pay attention to what Po does for a job, you'll see that he's serving tables. Something his size unfortunately doesn't make all too easy. He's bumping into people, spilling food on customers, you get it. But Ping doesn't change his job. Actually, it would be more accurate to say that Ping doesn't try to change Po at all. He's able to accept that he just is who he is. Ping isn't without flaw though, as he shares Shifu's lack of confidence in their sons doing anything other than what they do. Shifu essentially forced Tai Lung into the Kung Fu game, and Ping tried to do the same thing with Po, but through a chance encounter, Po was set on a different path. After Po became the Dragon Warrior, Shifu immediately tried to get rid of him, but unlike Tai Lung, Po was used to people telling him he couldn't do something. This gave him the inner strength to pick himself back up and keep trying, whereas Tai Lung gave up after one singular failure. This reveals what's really so toxic about toxic masculinity. Sure, it turns men into absolute control freaks who feel like they need to be more and more powerful, and that's also kind of a bad thing in excess. But the real crime here is pounding the idea into your head that you need to be perfect every time. No mistakes. Have you ever noticed how the strongest, most powerful, most masculine men also shatter the easiest? The second they're proven wrong, they can't even take it. If you're Tai Lung, it means you slaughter a village. If you're XQC, you do this. Point is, the real strength you want is mental stability, because it allows you to keep going. We need fathers who will not try to mold their sons into who they want them to be, but will support their sons in whatever they choose to do. Teach them that mental stability, and don't pigeonhole them into one stupid path. When Shifu has had his change of heart, it's because he started to lean into what made Po, Po. He was different. And Shifu started to recognize that. He started to support that instead of attempting to suppress it. Why was he able to become the Dragon Warrior? Why was he able to be trained in a day and beat Tai Lung in a fight? Because it's what he wanted. And there lies the problem. Toxic masculinity isn't part of our DNA. Not all men are bad people. No one is born a monster. But by sticking to the old ways, and by disregarding the fundamental change that has occurred in society, we are creating men who just can't function in the modern day. We need father figures and other role models that won't raise you to be a machine. It might look like these men are thriving, but in reality, they're some of the saddest people on the planet because they have no one around them to tell them that it's okay to just be themselves. And I'm sorry, but they're only there to sell you shit. There's no sexual marketplace or dominance hierarchy. I mean, that's stupid. You know, if their advice really worked, we'd be seeing results. Instead, we're seeing young men kill themselves because they were never told that they can just be themselves. This video is one of the most emotional on my channel. It's a thing that I really care about. I know a lot of you out there are struggling with these exact issues. You don't even have to be a man to understand. I think in some sense, we are all imbued with this idea that we needed to be everything and do it all perfectly. But life is about so much more than that. I'm really lucky that I get to do what I do and just have fun with it. I was sort of able to break out of that illusion that I needed to be this completely masculine man, because trust me, I know. Everyone watching right now is asking, wait, he identifies as a man?
No way! It's a boy! Look at his boobies.
So I guess, I hope this video helped, at least in some way. If you want me to do more videos breaking down animated characters through this mental health perspective, leave me some suggestions in the comments. Thanks for watching.
Big bumbo class me for busting on me head. A sexy gal say she want to give me head. When me fuck pussy turn red. Gymnastic.